broadcast.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome back.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Umar, it still says 0 viewers.
Yeah, it's Nakib is putting it up right now. So as soon as you see that number jump up to 5 or 10, you can start then, okay?
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome back. Apologize for some quick technical difficulties, but we're back up and running, inshallah ta'ala. And so let's continue with our next question for Sheikh Yasir Qadi. And Sheikh, if you could just speak on, of course, the very
popular... question was not heard, by the way. Was not, because we lost the broadcast. The last question. That about Salat Maghrib, eating before Maghrib prayer.
Okay, fadla Sheikhna, sorry about that.
If you can repeat the question.
So the question was about the one about eating before Maghrib prayer?
The question was about eating the full meal before Maghrib prayer. Okay, would that be allowed? My answer was shortly that An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in Sahih Bukhari, قدموا العشاء على المغرب. Eat your dinner before Maghrib. So it is allowed for the person to delay the salah until they eat. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam disliked for someone to pray while he is interested in food, and he said no salah in the presence of food. So if you're really interested in the food and desire it, and you're hungry, cannot focus on your salah, you can eat. But with the condition that you should not do this until the time of Maghrib is missed. So you eat whatever satisfies you, go pray, and come back, inshallah, and continue your fasting. Continue your eating, sorry.
So our next question is for Dr. Yasir Qadi. If you can just explain the whole controversy between the 15 degrees versus the 18 degrees for the Fajr timing, and mention your position.
جيد. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. So especially our viewers in England are painfully aware that there's a massive controversy. This controversy also extends to America about the charts that we use to decide Fajr timings, where the charts radically differ. In England, the difference is sometimes 2 hours up in the north. In America, typically it's half an hour, 40 minutes, 25 minutes. And when you find, and the same city is going to have these different salah charts. And when you find out the reason why, they go back to how they calculate the beginning time of Fajr. And this goes back to the scientific / fiqhi controversy. When does Fajr begin? And the response is, theoretically, it's very easy to say that Fajr begins at what is called the true dawn, Al-Fajr As-Sadiq. And the true dawn is when the horizon horizontally is lit up with the rays of the sun, not just vertically. There's a vertical strip that will come in the middle of the night, after the middle of the night. As the sun continues to come closer to the horizon to rise, that strip is going to expand outward, and it's going to become flat. When it's on the entire horizon, that's when Fajr timing begins, and before that is when we need to finish our suhoor and not eat anymore. Theoretically, that's agreed upon. All the four madhahib agree. No ikhtilaf. The problem comes, how do you translate that into a scientific equation? And there are many different opinions. Around 30 years ago, Al-Qura had a conference in Mecca where they invited a whole bunch of ulama and astronomers, and they decided that they would adopt the 18-degree model. 18 degrees, imagine this is the horizon, okay? So 18 degrees basically means beneath the horizon by around that much, let's say, right? That's 18 degrees. So the sun is coming up, up, up. When it's 18 degrees beneath the horizon, that's when Al-Qura said, okay, that's what we're going to consider to be Fajr. And this is the standard and default position in the majority of masajid around the globe. And there's no doubt that is the safest opinion. However, it is not the only opinion. There are some majami' or groups of scholars that have said 19 degrees. Some have said 17 and a half. Some have said 15. Some have said 12. Some have even said 9 degrees. So there's a spectrum of controversy. And ISNA, as well as some in America, as well as some British councils, have adopted 15 degrees rather than 18. So that's a difference of 3 degrees, but that 3 degrees translates into time. So this is roughly 18 degrees to 15 degrees. The sun's just going up a little bit. That 3 degrees in England might be an hour, hour and a half. So you have some masajid that have Fajr timing at 2:30 a.m. and others have it at 3:45 or 4 a.m. or something like this. Here in America, in Memphis, for example, where I'm based in right now, the 18-degree folk have Fajr finishing at 3:59. And the 15-degree folk have Fajr, sorry, not finishing, beginning. Fajr beginning at 4:25. So we have a difference of 27 minutes, 26, 27 minutes. Now, in my humble opinion, the whole notion of having one precise number for the entire globe doesn't make sense. That number varies from latitude to latitude, and it also varies from season to season. Yes, at the equator, in the middle of the year, 18 degrees is perfect, I agree. But to assume that 18 degrees is going to be operative in Peru, or in Venezuela, or in Norway throughout the year, it doesn't make sense to me. Wallahu alam. And there is another opinion out there, and I follow that opinion, that the whole idea of having one number, one magical number that the whole globe needs to follow, it doesn't make sense. It varies from time to time, season to season, I mean, and it varies from latitude to latitude. That being said, therefore, Allah knows best, but the whole point of being so strict on 18 or 15 doesn't make sense. There is leeway, and the beginning time of Fajr really is an ijtihadi matter in that. What do I mean by this? There are so many factors. If two people are standing next to one another, and they're monitoring when the sun is rising and when there's Fajr al-Sadiq, it's very likely that the two of them might themselves disagree because of their eyesight, because of the air pollution, because of external light influence. It's not a scientifically precise, calculatable time that Fajr al-Sadiq comes in. Unlike the sunrise, that you can calculate. When the disk of the sun rises above the horizon, you can calculate that down to a minute. But you cannot calculate the Fajr al-Sadiq. It's a bit of a unintended gray area. Therefore, Allah knows best, you should go with your masjid. 18 is fine, 17 is fine, 15 is fine. And going below that, it's probably a little bit problematic. But nonetheless, I don't have any problem with the 15 degree, and I understand 18 degree is the safer opinion. And so you look at your own masjid. If the masjid is doing a 15 degree, alhamdulillah, good. If they're doing 18 degree and you want to stick with them, alhamdulillah, that is good as well. I don't see this to be an issue where we can say that the phone is batil for the one who does 15 or 18. Quite the contrary, this is a very modern ijtihadi issue, and inshallah ta'ala, both positions have an element of validity to them. And I personally, in our city of Memphis, we are following ISNA's position, which is 15 degrees, and I don't have a problem with that. And I do believe that in the summer months, we should try to make the fast as easy as possible. And given the fact that there is a leeway, and there are many ulama that have said 15, even lesser than 15, and ISNA is also championing 15, I don't see a problem for us to adopt the 15 degrees, especially in the fact that it's summer months, and Allah Ta'ala knows that.
So Sheikh Yasser doesn't see a problem with varying from 15 degrees to 18 degrees. Sheikh Wadi, your thoughts on the matter?
I would say that our masjid also follow the ISNA method. And I'm in this case مقلد. I just made taqleed, and in Amja, in Assembly Muslim Groups in North America, I asked Sheikh Salah Sawi about this, and he also said to me that ISNA looks like the most accurate method that he believes should be followed, and based on what we follow this method in our masjid. But also, I would emphasize what Sheikh Yasser Qadi said, that if you pray in a masjid who follow another methodology, or you know someone who do that, it is good and alhamdulillah acceptable.
So Sheikh Yasser, to play devil's advocate, if you have two masajid that are nearby and it causes such a varying of 30 minutes, for example, in North America, or 2 hours in the UK, won't people just follow the easier one in their community? If you have two in Memphis that have a later time, one has a later time, why wouldn't people pick the one that's later?
So typically, the people should pick the
Isn't the
masjid.
later one better? Sheikh Yasser?
I didn't hear you, Sheikh. What?
Isn't the later one is better?
The later one is better. Typically, I would say they should stick with the masjid they associate with. Where do they usually pray? Because there should be some type of unity even within a city. Even if there's two opinions, stick with the group that you associate with. Don't pick and choose merely based on convenience. Nonetheless, in this particular issue, if a person followed the other schedule, because it really is difficult, like especially in England, where you have Fajr coming in at 1:30 versus 3:30 up north in the northern cities, right? Literally, Fajr will come in at 1:30 if you follow the 18th degree, and it'll come in at 3:30 if you follow the 15th degree. Given that, and we have to think of children and teenagers, we have to think of people that have to wake up and go to work. I really don't see a problem if a person chooses a fatwa. It's not a question of halal and haram here. Really, it's not a question of haqq and batil. It's a question of which degree is more accurate. And the ammi, the average person, really does not know which one is the more accurate one. And there are major ulama on all sides of the issue. Given the dynamics and given the hardship associated with 18 degrees, inshallah, there is no sin even if the person decides to swap masjids, if you like, right, for this reason, and go with the other masjid. وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. That Allah has not put any haraj on you in this religion. And Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
Jazakallah khair. Back to Sheikh Walid. Sheikh Walid, how strong of a sunnah is it to read the entire Quran during Taraweeh?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. First of all, no doubt reading Al-Quran, entire Quran, is one of the greatest active deeds that you can do during Ramadan. And I do believe that reading Quran in Ramadan, not necessarily in Taraweeh, but in Ramadan, completing the recitation of Quran in Ramadan, it is not only it is Sunnah al-Nabawiyya, but also Sunnah al-Salafiyya. It is that what our Salaf al-Salih used to do. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to go over the whole entire Quran with Jibreel in Ramadan. And the day he died, he reviewed with him عرض عليه مرتين. And this is in Sahih al-Bukhari. And you will see the scholars, rahimahumullah, during Ramadan, they will read so many times and they make so many khatm al-Quran. Al-Aswad, the student of Mas'ud, كان يختم القرآن, he made khatm al-Quran every 2 nights. And Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, as the Rabi' ibn Sulaiman, he said he makes 60 khatma, 60 khatma during Ramadan. You know, there is many of the tabi'een used to do that. Where they took it from, Mujahid and Qatada and long list of the scholars, they used to make Khatm al-Quran in Ramadan more than one time. And this is something they learned from the Sahaba radiallahu anhum wa arda. And also, in particular in Taraweeh, is there any harm to make Khatm al-Quran in Taraweeh? No harm to make Khatm al-Quran in Taraweeh. But did the Prophet ﷺ said that, recommended that? No. Do you have anything indication that the Prophet ordered us to do this? The answer is no. But we have certain indication, like the way the Sahaba used to pray. When Umar radiallahu anhu, or gathered the Sahaba behind Ubay and Tamim al-Dari, they used to finish right before Fajr. You know, they read hundreds and 200 verses, and he reduced that later on. They used to read very long recitation. This is the famous narration in Muwatta Malik, but also I found another narration reported by Ibn Abi Dunya from Yunus ibn Ubayd that he said that Abu Abdurrahman ibn Bakra, okay, which is a companion, used to lead the people in Basra, and he lead the prayer, and Sa'id ibn Abi al-Hasan wa Marwan al-Abdi, فكانوا يصلون بهم 20 ركعة ولا يقنتون إلا في النصف الثاني وكانوا يختمون القرآن مرتين عند صلاة التراويح. So you have this, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, with others used to lead the Salah and they pray 20 rak'ahs, they make qunut in the second half of Ramadan, and they make Khatm al-Quran twice during Ramadan in Taraweeh. And this isnad is isnad sahih, also reported by Ibn Asakir and others. وكان الإمام محمد بن إسماعيل البخاري رحمه الله in the first night of Ramadan, he gathered his students and he will lead the prayer and he will lead with 20 rak'ah. كان يقرأ, he will lead and he will pray with them until he makes Khatm al-Quran. And this is also something Ibn Hajar rahimahullah mentioned. That's why in al-Madahib, across the fuqaha, they mentioned that لا يزيد الإمام على ختمة رفقا بمن حوله, so the Imam will not make more than one Khatm al-Quran during the Salah to make it easy on the followers. Some ulama said it's allowed to make more than one Khatmah, and this is something very well known in the books of fuqaha. Even al-Kasani rahimahullah, who's a great faqih in the Hanafi madhab, he said it is recommended to make Khatm al-Quran because Umar did it with the Sahaba. But in our day, he said, I believe that it is hard for people to witness the whole entire Khatm al-Quran more than one time. So he said that you should read according to what people capable of. If this is said, I want to say that even Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala, it's been reported that he asked, is ختم القرآن in Ramadan sunnah في قيام? He said no. ليس ختم القرآن بسنة. Okay? And this is also the position of his Sheikh Rabi'ah al-Ra'i. He was asked about that. He's not sunnah. It is not something from the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But the point of Imam Ahmad said, تقرأ بقدر الناس يستطيع الناس. You read according to what people feel of Allah. So if Khatm al-Quran is hard for people, especially in late nights like now, people need to have Khatm al-Quran during the Salah. You can encourage them to do outside of Salah. But if your community can handle that, that's fine.
Very beautiful advice. And even though you mentioned that this is something well known, I feel like it's something that's not well known due to how many masajid burden the people with trying to do Khatm al-Quran in these late summer nights. Sheikh Yasir, back to the next question with regards to you, and this is something that we'll be experiencing in the next couple of days, moon sighting. Why is moon sighting so important? Is it an active ibadah? Why is there a difference in moon sighting? And is the method utilized specifically being asked about isn't valid for moon sighting?
So you've been an hour and a half answering questions. You haven't asked the moon sighting question. How's that even possible?
You waited till you got here, Sheikh.
Okay,
waited for the moon to shine, Sheikh Yasir.
that is for me. Okay, inshallah, tabarak.
We found the moon. The moon is here.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. Ya akhi, we lost the moon, ya akhi. We lost Muhammad Ali today. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant for those. Wallahi, the heart is sad, ya akhi, subhanAllah. But anyway, alhamdulillah, we thank Allah for having blessed us to be in His era as well. In any case, the moon sighting. Of course, all of us are painfully aware that this is one of the controversies that afflicts the Muslims of North America. What we need to realize is that the controversy does not affect most Muslim countries for one simple reason, and that is that most Muslim countries, the government announces when Eid is. So it would be ludicrous for the people to have it on any other day. It would actually be sinful for them to do so. But the fact of the matter is that every single Islamic ministry in the world has to make the same decision. And because the ministry is in charge of the whole country, so the decision will be unified by the entire country. The reality of America and the Western world is that we have no Ministry of Islamic Affairs. We have no one united leadership. And therefore, كُلُّ حِزْبٍ بِمَا لَدَيْهِمْ فَرِحُونَ, every single group is happy about its own position. So all of the classical differences then come into play here in America, and we now have the freedom in America for every masjid to basically do whatever it wants to do. And that is why we have these differences within the moon sighting issues. And very briefly, there are two positions in classical Islam that are relevant to us. And by the way, I have a much larger article, longer article about the moon sighting issue on MuslimMatters.com. I encourage everybody to read it. And it's basically about why there is a difference between over moon sighting. And there are two primary opinions, and these are the opinions about unifying the world with one sighting, or to follow your own latitude. Wherever you are, you follow the sightings of your own latitude, which is translated into following your own province. Following your own province. These two opinions are found in classical Islam, and technically speaking, even within a madhab, it's common to find both opinions. I.e., within pretty much every madhab, you will find both of these opinions being championed by various people, even though obviously typically each madhab has a predominant opinion. But even within the madahib, it's not crystal clear. And the reason is that this question truly was a theoretical one for most of the history of the Ummah. Regardless of what theoretically you believe, practically speaking, realistically speaking, you would follow what you would find out within your province and locality. The Muslims of Andalus would never care or follow about the Muslims of China or Transoxania or even Arabia. There would not be a connection. The Muslims of Morocco and the Muslims of Afghanistan would not be able to communicate with one another to have a global unified sighting. Regardless of theory, historically speaking, it is factual to state that for the bulk of the Ummah's history, every single province and every single area of land followed its own sighting. And in fact, this is even mentioned in the famous hadith of Qurayb ibn Abbas in Sahih Muslim, that Damascus and Medina, and this is in the time of the Sahaba, they had different days that Ramadan began, and it wasn't considered a big deal. Each one said, whatever, we're going to do what we follow, we're going to do what they follow. So, it is my theoretical position, after many, many years of research in this regard, that the default should be that every province and every land has its own moon sighting, no problem. If somebody wants to argue for a unified sighting, okay, that's also a fine, acceptable opinion, and it is found in classical Islam, not a problem at all. I will only add that that's never happened in the history of the Ummah, and to assume it's going to happen now is somewhat idealistic. What is really important, whichever position you follow, your heart should not be disunited, even if the Eid are disunited. In other words, this is a classical fiqh ikhtilaf, just like whether we should pay zakat on gold or not, whether we should say Ameen out loud or not. However you want to do it, whether you want to follow the position of global or you want to follow the position of national, it is permissible to do so, and the community leaders should decide which position they want to follow, and inshallah that would be permissible. What is also important to mention, the hadith in Tirmidhi, in which the Prophet ﷺ said that الصوم يوم تصومون والفطر يوم تفطرون, that the fasting is the day you guys start fasting, and the Eid al-Fitr is the day you guys do Eid al-Fitr. This hadith is in Tirmidhi, and what it basically says, it's a positive hadith. No matter what happens in the skies, what's important is the community come together and decide what day is Eid and what day is Fitr and what day is Ramadan. And that shall be the day of Ramadan, regardless of what happened in the skies. So where the community is united, then alhamdulillah, the Muslim Ummah should remain united. And if one city is following one opinion and a neighboring city in America or England is following another opinion, so be it, not a problem. However, if in a city we have a ikhtilaf or difference, then I suggest we go with the dominant majority if there is a dominant majority. If there is no dominant majority, then we stick with our local masjid that we typically pray in. One final point, and obviously there's a whole spectrum of opinion. So we all know that ISNA, the American Islamic Society of North America, it had a new fatwa that it propagated a few years ago that was rejected soundly a decade and a half ago, and that was to forget visual sighting and to go with calculations. And at the time, it caused a huge controversy, and by and large, the bulk of the masajid rejected that. And ISNA softened down its stances, and many of the scholars who rejected it began thinking about it. And what we're seeing is a revival now of this third opinion. And I just want to throw it out there, and I know it's highly controversial, but after years of being with the community and not just studying in books, I am myself now very sympathetic to the position that going by calculations is a permissible alternative given the dynamics of the American Muslim and the Western Muslim community. In other words, in a theoretically ideal world, in a theoretically ideal world, I would hope to have local sighting, and that is the default, and that is what historically has occurred. But given the dynamics of us as a minority in North America, and realizing that it's highly problematic to book 2 days for the hall, and to tell doctors and lawyers and engineers and even workers to not know what day they're taking off. And more states are declaring Eid to be a national holiday. Logistically speaking, it makes life many times easier to know in advance what day Eid is going to be. We're not living in a Muslim land where the government is going to say tomorrow is a holiday and everybody's off. Quite the contrary, we are a minority struggling to preserve our Islam. And if I and you have the iman to debate 2 days and take 2 days off, I am worried my children and your children might not have that iman. And we do need to think long term, and it is permissible in the Sharia to take context into account when we look at fiqh positions. And this is one of the biggest issues that I believe we need to be very explicit about. Many scholars ignore reality and they think pure theory, and they look at the text and the hadith and the Quran and they give the fatwa purely on theory. That is not how fiqh is derived. Fiqh is also derived looking at practicality and reality. And in my opinion, calculations is not the strongest fiqh opinion. But given the dynamics of the Western Muslim community, I think it makes more and more sense that we start thinking about the practical ramifications of knowing when Eid is going to be and the usefulness as a Muslim community to do that. And of course, this goes back to the asl or the fundamental principle which you briefly touched upon in your question. Is the moon sighting a ritual act of worship? Amrun ta'abbudi. Is it something that Allah has commanded us to do? Or is it merely a sign and an indication to the actual ritual which is Ramadan? Many scholars say that the act of sighting the moon is ta'abbudi. They have some indirect, vague evidence for it, and I respect their position. But in my humble opinion, there is nothing explicit in the Quran or Sunnah to indicate that looking for the moon in and of itself is an action of worship. Now, why do we care if it's an action of worship or not? Because if it is an action of worship, then we don't think about it, and we simply hear and we obey. Salah is 5 times a day. We don't think about 5, 6, 4, we do it. Tawaf is done 7 times with our left shoulder facing the Kaaba and the right shoulder exposed. We don't think about why, we just do it because it's a ritual. If it's not a ritual, we're allowed to use our noggin here, use our brain, think about it, rationalize, look at the reason behind the legislation, the hikmah and the illah. What is the reason and what is the wisdom behind the particular legislation? And then we may alter the textual commandment in light of the reasoning. This is well known to every faqih. It's not anything new that I'm bringing forth. So, if we say that the sighting of the moon is not a ritual act, and this seems to be what the Quran itself says, that Allah Azza wa Jalla says that the ahilla, or looking at the moon in the crescent, is mawaqitu linnasi wal hajj. They are meant to indicate the time for the people and the time of hajj. So looking at the moon is not in and of itself an act of worship. Rather, it was meant to be an indication. And as for the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is according to Bukhari, we are a illiterate nation. We neither read nor we write. In my humble opinion, many ulama, especially those who are against calculations, have misunderstood the point of the hadith. The point of the hadith is not a command, it's a description. The point of the hadith is not a prohibition for future. It's simply describing status quo. And what explains this to you, the Prophet himself Ummi, and the majority of the Sahaba at that time were Ummi. And therefore, The fact that the Prophet is saying, Inna ummatun ummiya, we are an illiterate nation, he is simply describing the status quo. No one actually says that we should remain illiterate and uneducated. No one says we should remain ummi for the rest of our lives. In fact, the Muslim ummah, alhamdulillah, is very literate now. Many countries have literacy rates in the 80 and 90%. Every one of us is literate. Are we going to understand the hadith to say we should become illiterate? No. It is not a command, it is a description. So therefore, the hadith has nothing to do with forbidding calculations in the future. It's merely describing status quo for the time being. That we are an Ummi nation and we don't really calculate. Well, we are no longer an Ummi nation by and large, and Muslims are reading and writing and they know mathematics, and the hadith does not tell us not to use it in the future. So the bottom line, there is a spectrum of opinion. Whichever one you want to do, alhamdulillah, do it. Don't have any haraj in your heart. Don't have any ill feeling in your heart towards other Muslims. Follow the majority of your city, or if there is no majority, follow your local masjid. But if you are in charge and you have to decide, then theoretically, in my humble opinion, the best idea or the best position is local moon sighting. But practically and pragmatically, given the circumstances of being a minority in the Western world, I don't have a problem with embracing the calculation model, and I believe that it is a valid opinion. And listen to me carefully, and with this I conclude, we can say whatever we want. Within 15 years, maybe even 10 years, definitely within 20 years, it will be the default position of the entire minority Muslim world, because the Muslim world is going to be heading in that direction, whatever theoretically position we have right now. And Allah Ta'ala knows best. I know it went way longer than I was supposed to go with that.
It was way longer, Sheikh, and I think you opened up so many juicy tangents to discuss. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to discuss all of them. Sheikh, would you just, if you could give us your quick response to some of the points that Sheikh Yasser raised, as you heard him sum it up at the end.
Why are you assuming there is a response?
I'm assuming yes, I am.
No, actually, I would like to say, Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Yasser, that was very, very well detailed answer. And I just want to point out several points for the listeners. There is a methodology that I follow and I recommend people to follow. Any issue related to the masses, impact the masses, I always recommend that we do not take the fatwa of individuals or in the fatwa of unknown group of people to be well-founded in knowledge. I will always recommend that we go to the majami', to the council of fiqh, those who have a large number of specialists and people who look into the issues and research it very well before they issue their fatawas. And as far as I know, that there is an agreement between all the Muslims recognized majami' fiqhiyya, well-established council of fiqh in the Muslim world. You name it in anywhere in the world, you will find them, all of them, specifically rejected the concept of following the calculation to determine the beginning of the month. That's something really rejected it, by agreement, like for all the majama' that I know. And also, it's ironic that they choose the opinion that Sheikh Yasser also didn't choose, which is the opinion of Wahdatul Matali'. Even though from fiqh perspective, I might go with Sheikh Yasser's choice, but what I give the fatwa with to the public, it is what the majama' said, what the council of fiqh said. And it's ironic in a time where it is impossible to unify the ummah on one group of moon sighting, but still the fuqaha said that this is the ruling. Is it something make us think a little bit more? Even technically it's impossible, and now it is possible in our days, but in their days it's impossible. But still they said that this is as if they say, if one day that became possible, that should be the way to go. And I think this is very ironic to look at it. Uh, Another thing I want to, and it's a fundamental issue, uh, it's okay to choose an opinion among the fuqaha's opinion that can fit certain circumstances or a group of people like minorities, like what Sheikh Yasser said. But it's more important than that, that this opinion should be an opinion, not opinion which is considered shad, which is an opinion that it is absolutely weak, rejected. If you look at the language that the fuqaha use against this opinion, it is unbelievable. Like when Nawawi rahimahullah said, وَهَذَا قَوْلٌ فَاسِدٌ مَرْدُودٌ, a corrupt, rejected opinion. When you see Al-Baji, he said, وَإِجْمَاعُ السَّلَفِ حُجَّةٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَهُوَ قَوْلٌ مَذْهَبٌ وَهُوَ مَذْهَبٌ بَاطِلٌ مَرْدُودٌ. You find this is the statement of Fuqaha al-Malikiyya. This is the statement of Fuqaha al-Shafi'iyya. This is the statement of Fuqaha al-Hanabila. And these people know what calculation is, and they have scholars in their time. So when I see this, I cannot. This is the wrong methodology, in my opinion. It's just to find what can. Whenever we establish a ruling, we establish a ruling by looking at the text, by looking at the evidence, not by looking at the people's need. But when we establish the ruling, we look at the people's need. You know, if it comes to not, we cannot change the deen because of the weakness of the iman of people. That's why Shaykh al-Islam rahimahullah, if someone wants to read more, have a very beautiful research, and I advise you to refresh Shaykh Yasser's. I'm 100% sure he read that, but maybe refresh your reading with it in Kitab Shaykh Sami Taymiyyah في اقتضاء الصراط المستقيم, when he made a research about المصالح المرسلة بدعة عن الشاطبي as well. And one of the things he said, you cannot invent things in the religion just because the lack of the iman or the weakness of the people. Then you adopt a new opinion that's no base in Sharia just to make things easy for them. He said that's a wrong way, and he wrote a lot about this, rahimahullah ta'ala, and it's something worth reading and sharing. The last point I want to say in regard to Hadith al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, نحن أمة الأمية لا نكتب ولا نحسب إنما الشهر هكذا. When he said we're a literate ummah, we don't write, we don't calculate. You know, definitely what Sheikh Dr. Yasser said is absolutely correct when he said that it doesn't mean that we became illiterate. That doesn't mean we don't learn math, we don't learn about the space and how the world is made. That's not what this hadith is. But also, I don't agree that this hadith is about describing the status quo. It is maybe part of it, but this hadith clearly saying that نحن لا نحسب ولا نكتب إنما الشهر هكذا. This hadith talking about that this month, the way we determine, deciding the moon or deciding how the month is calculated, we use it in the most illiterate way. We use the most simple way. We don't use calculation, we don't use these methods when it comes to this matter. We use it in the most illiterate, simple way. And that's what this hadith means, and that's, if you look at that, many of the ulama who comment on this hadith, this is the understanding that at least I see it. That this hadith telling us when it comes to the matter of deciding the moon, it is the most simple one. And I want to share with you something very interesting that I heard it from one of my friends, or my I consider also sheikh, who's in Saudi Arabia as a judge. He said it's very interesting in 1403 1403 Hijri. The fatwa of Hayat Kibar al-Ulama came in the permissibility of using telescopes and things of that method to decide the moon. And he said, and when he said that, he was talking in 1400, maybe 26, 1426. So that's how many years? 23 years. He said, so for the last 23 years or 20 years, لم تثبت قط رؤيا بالمراصد. They failed to recognize the moon a single time with the telescope, while people were able to see it with their own local eye. And he talked about this, how it is even more easy scientifically speaking, and he mentioned some of the scholars said that it's not a very effective method to sight the moon with telescope. It is more effective to use your own eyes, actually, if you have a good sighting and you're in a good location. And he explained why, because the telescope put more light in a specific point in the moon while the sun behind it, so it make it more difficult for you to see. Anyway, that's not the point of discussion. But what I'm trying to say is the simple way of looking at the moon. That's what the Prophet ﷺ meant. Remember, this Sharia is for everything. I know that Farid Sheikh Yasser didn't say that this is a ruling that he adopted for all the Muslim world, but he thinks because of the situation in the minority here, and that's very valid point, and I think it's worth looking at it, investing more time to it, maybe introducing it to the Majami al-Fiqh to look into it, maybe to issue a fatwa about it. Allah knows best.
Sheikh Yasser, could you unmute yourself?
Can't hear you, Ammar.
He said, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, sorry, I unmuted myself. Okay, Sheikh, just because it's your question, if you could have anything that you wanted to say back to with regards to what Sheikh.
Wallah, Sheikh, I think it's good that the viewers see that there is a healthy ikhtilaf. Alhamdulillah, the Ummah is not united on one opinion. And inshallah, there is much khair in what Sheikh Walid said. And there's no doubt that he is saying a very accepted position. Again, I don't want to go back and forth. It's not the right time or place to do this. But the question arises, would Imam al-Nawawi and Ibn Hajar and others say the exact same thing given the circumstances we find ourselves in? So should we blindly follow their ijtihad for their time and place, or should we try to do what they would have done? And that's a big would have. Allah knows what they would have done. So that's the question, that given the times have changed, and frankly, technology has also changed, and science has also changed, and astronomy has also changed. What they knew astronomically was great, but it's nowhere close to what we know as well. As for the Majami', Sheikh, we had this discussion many years ago. The Hayat Kibar Ulama of Saudi Arabia and Bin Baz and Uthaymeen, they all have Ikhtilaf al-Matali'. Sheikh Uthaymeen himself told me this personally. So Ikhtilaf al-Matali' is a standard position, and it is the default position of the majority of the Ummah, and it has historically always been what the Ummah has done. It is true that Albani and others, they had the Wahdat al-Matali', and that's the position of Amja, I am aware. But these are the two classical positions historically, and what I'm arguing for is unity more important than the fiqhi position. So whatever the community is,
it's not al-Albani, it is Malik and Shafi'i and Ahmed and Abu Hanifa.
You are aware, in every one of the madhahib there's both opinions. In every one of them.
That's the official in every madhab. That's qawl al-jumhur, that's no doubt about that. And also that's Majma' al-Rabita, Majma' al-Fiqh al-Islami. This is Majma' al-Buhuth al-Islamiyya. This is the Majma' in India. This is like if you go across the board, it is the
Majma'. You have major majami' on the other side as well, Sheikh. It's not as clear-cut as you're making it out. There are many famous ulama on the other side. I just said Sheikh Hayat Kibar Ulama and the of our own country, Bin Baz and Uthaymeen, were very explicit on this point.
Yeah, that's their opinion.
I think we've gotten to the point of the ikhtilaf that everybody understands.
It's also worth mentioning that calculation, yes, advanced today, and I think it will limit the amount of ikhtilaf if we say this. If we say that F astronomically, and that's something exists in the fuqaha. That's not a qawl shad. That's a lot of ulama adopted this opinion, which is if scientifically we know that it is impossible to sight the moon, we cannot take the shahada of the people who come forward to claim that they have sighted the moon, and that's something I think it will make us more unified. And for the last few years, I've been seeing this happening a lot in America. So this is something also worth mentioning.
We're going to try to get to as many questions as we can. So if both of the mashayikh can keep their answers as brief as possible, we're going to try to do what we can here. Sheikh Walid, can the Imam read from the Mus'haf during Taraweeh?
The Shafi'iyah and the strongest opinion among the Hanabila, yes, it is allowed for the person to read from the Mus'haf. And Imam Ahmad, when he was asked, he said yes. He said, what about the Fariḍah? He said, لا لم أسمع فيه شيئا. I haven't heard anything about it. And most of the Fuqaha al-Hanabila, they said it's not recommended, and some of them even said it's not allowed for the person to do it in the Salat al-Fariḍah. But in Ramadan, since this is the question is about, I believe it is allowed to read from it. And this position was based on the narration that the Quran, the boy of Aisha radiallahu anha, or the slave of Aisha radiallahu anha, used to lead her Ramadan from the Mus'haf. And Zuhri rahimahullah, Muhammad Shahab Zuhri, you can imagine this is the Tabi'in, قال كان خيارنا يقرؤون من المصحف. يعني في الصلاة, the best among us will be looking into the Mus'haf in the Salah. Imam Malik allowed it, but it is interesting to find most of the Malikiyah, they don't recommend that at all. Otherwise, Imam Malik in the Mudawwara said explicitly you can read the Salah. What Imam Malik disliked is in the middle of the Salah you pick up the Mus'haf and you start looking into it. But you start the Salah holding the Mus'haf, he allowed it. Al-Hanafiyyah, no, they are very strict about that. They say this is Salah batil if you look at the Mus'haf because it's a movement, unneeded movement in the Salah. And I would say, first of all, try to find someone who's hafiz. You need to read too many verses, read from what you memorize. And if you need to hold the Mus'haf, I think it is permissible because the evidence of the Jumhur is stronger. Wallahu a'lam. And in regard to this, also worth mentioning, can you read the English translation while you are behind the Imam? Shaykhna Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah ta'ala have a fatwa that give an indication on, not directly related to this question, but he have an answer of fatwa that based on al-Hanabila also, Imam Ahmad rahimahullah was asked about questions similar to look at the books of tafsir. So Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah said, if you don't move your lips, if you read the English translation, you can read with your eyes, it's permissible. But if you cannot start reading, so that's a talk inside the Salah, and it is not allowed. So if you're going to look with your eyes, I do believe it is permissible, especially for those who don't speak Arabic. You don't understand what the Imam reading, with the Salah, you cannot focus on the Salah. And I have a paper published about this at AMJA, the Assembly of Muslim Jurists in North
America. The next question, Sheikh Yasir, with regards to on the topic of Taraweeh, how strong of it is a Sunnah? You already mentioned that it is Sunnah. How strong of it is a Sunnah is it to pray Taraweeh every single night? Also, what is the number? Is it 8 or 20?
So the Taraweeh prayer, the word Taraweeh does not occur in the Sunnah. Taraweeh prayer is the same as the Qiyamul Layl and the Tahajjud and the Witr, except that in Ramadan it's called Taraweeh. And it was called Taraweeh in the time of the Tabi'un because they would rest. Yurawihun, Taraweeh means to rest. They would rest after every 4 rak'at. So they called the resting Taraweeh, and then the prayer itself was called Taraweeh. So Taraweeh is the same as the Qiyamul Layl or the night prayers that the Prophet would say. And it is especially encouraged in Ramadan to pray Tahajjud, Qiyamul Layl, Taraweeh. And that's one of the 3 reasons that the Prophet said the previous sins will be forgiven. Whoever fasts Ramadan, whoever prays the nights of Ramadan, and whoever prays Laylatul Qadr with Iman and expecting Allah to reward him will have all of his previous sins forgiven. So it is a very, very strongly encouraged sunnah, but it is not wajib, it is not obligatory. And if a person is able to pray at home, that is fine. And if a person is able to pray in the masjid, that is fine. I would say that the default should be to try to pray in the masjid for the average person because the spirituality is more. But for the one who is used to praying at home alone, long hours, and the one who likes recitation of the Quran by himself, then there's no question that privacy is also greatly encouraged, and you might have more ikhlas praying Taraweeh at home. So the person should decide, but the default for the average person should be to pray in the masjid because it is where the spirituality will be higher. As for the number of raka'at, so realize that Taraweeh is a nafil prayer, and therefore there is no number that is mandatory. You cannot have a mandatory number for something that is nafil. So if a person wants to pray any number of raka'at and consider it to be Taraweeh, that would be permissible. Historically speaking, the Prophet ﷺ typically prayed the 11 raka'at, 8 plus 3 he would pray. He would pray 11 raka'at of Qiyamul Layl. This was his overall sunnah. And in the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab, Umar realized that these 11 are very, very long, so he made them shorter and smaller surahs, recitation. And so we have authentic narrations that Umar did introduce the 20 rak'at Taraweeh, and therefore this is from the actions of Umar ibn al-Khattab, and Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anh is a qudwa, is a person whom we follow, and so it is completely permissible and jaiz to pray 20. We also know that the people of Medina, Imam Malik would pray 36 rak'at, and that is for reasons that go back to a competition between them and Mecca. And the people of Mecca, by the way, we complain about Taraweeh. They would perform a tawaf after every 4 rak'at. Can you imagine? Every 4 rak'at, they would go and do a tawaf around the Kaaba. And so the people of Medina wanted to compensate for that, and so they added extra rak'at. And so in the Maliki madhab, you actually have 36 rak'at of Taraweeh in the early books of the Maliki madhab. The point being that the number of rak'at is not what's important. It's the quality of rak'at that is important. And if a person wants to pray 8 rak'at or 20 rak'at or more than this, or if they do not have time, then even less than this, all of this is permissible. But historically speaking, 8 and 20 have been the predominant ones that the Ummah has done. And so we should not at all go into these debates once again about which one should be 8 or 20. The fact of the matter is that the Ummah never really had a harsh debate over 8 and 20 before the 1980s and 90s. It is a very, very recent phenomenon. You do not find books being written 100 years ago, 50 years ago, 1,000 years ago, refuting 8 and 20. The Ummah was actually much more tolerant, and they understood this is a very open-minded scenario. Unfortunately, in the last generation, 1 or 2 particular individuals who were very, very literalist in their methodology. They believe that anything above 8 is incorrect in bid'ah, and so they wrote books about it, and it's called counter books to be written. We unfortunately are inheriting that baggage, and we should discard all of that baggage. Let everybody pray whatever they can. Let there be no fighting and disputing over 8 or 20. All of it is permissible, even though the ideal and the default would be to follow what the Prophet ﷺ did, and that is 13. 8 plus 3 is the, sorry, 11. 8 plus 3 is the 11. The 13 will be including the 2 rak'at of Fajr, or the 2 rak'at of Isha, which are where the first from. But the default was that the Prophet would pray around 11 rak'at. But as Aisha herself said, don't even try to ask how beautiful they were and how perfect they were and how long they were. So why does everybody concentrate on the 11 and forget the other part, which is the quality? Let's ignore the number. Let's concentrate on the quality of the rak'at. Any number of rak'at is permissible when it comes to Taraweeh. And once again, we should not be disputing and fighting with another over these petty and trivial issues. Both of them are sunnahs. Sunnah of Umar ibn Khattab is also a sunnah for us, because the Prophet explicitly said, follow the sunnah of these two, Abu Bakr and Umar. So what Umar did is also something that is permissible, and we can call it a sunnah. And the Prophet himself prayed 11 rak'at, but he clearly and explicitly allowed praying more than 11, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best.
Just really quickly, Sheikh, if you could comment on praying it alone versus praying it in masjid.
I agree with everything Sheikh Yasser said. Wonderful explanation. Yeah, I just want to say the 36 that Maliki started it, it's actually started by Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah. He's the one who did the 36. And after that, the people of Medina copied that when he was the Imam, the governor in Medina. And it became the Sunnah adopted, or the way the people of Medina did it. And that's why Malik rahimahullah said, that's the only thing I saw the people of Medina doing. And he even was angry when the ruler tried to reduce the amount of rak'ah from 39, and he said nothing less than 36. Anyway, but you can pray any number you want. I was just wondering if someone today decide to pray 5 rak'ahs, Taraweeh, okay? How's that will sound? How less tolerance the people are today in our community. Yeah, it's going to be very unacceptable, that's right. Even though you can pray more, you can pray less. There's also one thing I want to point out, the difference between the word Taraweeh and Qiyam, as I know the Fuqaha point out. Al-Qiyam, it is by yourself. Al-Qiyam always refer to praying individually. Al-Taraweeh is when you pray in Jama'ah. So even if you pray the Taraweeh by yourself, we don't call this Taraweeh, we call it Qiyam. Even if you have a rest in between the 2 rak'ahs. Dhabit, what defined Taraweeh from this terminology is the being congregation or individual. As for praying in Jama'ah or at home, there is indication that Umar radiallahu anh didn't pray with them, because he came and he saw them praying and he told the one with him or the people with him, this is something great. And Ali radiallahu anh said, no, كما نورت مساجدنا صلاة. So it's giving an indication that Umar was not in the Jama'ah praying with them. And even he said, إن الصلاة التي ينامون عنها خير من الذين يقومون لها. So this gives indication that people can pray. But I found some of the fuqaha said something very interesting. They said, لا ينبغي لذوي الفضل والإمامة. It's not recommended for those who are well known, well respected, to pray at home and not in Jama'ah, so they will not be a bad role model for the community. And this is something some of the fuqaha mentioned it. I don't recall now who, maybe Ibn Rajab or someone like that. But this is, I thought it's a very good point to be shared.
Coming back to Sheikh Walid, your question is, if someone fasts while traveling, is this a praiseworthy thing or is it discouraged?
If traveling will cause a hardship to the person and put a lot of stress and make things difficult for the person, al-ulama agreed that it's better for him or her to break their fast. But what if the fasting is not going to harm at all? It's very easy buying, in half an hour I will be in Dallas or wherever, or an hour I will be in the destination that I want. In this case, the Hanafi, the Maliki, the Shafi'i would say it is better to fast, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. And also because the Nabi was fasting in a very hot day. Everybody broke his fast except the Nabi and Abdullah ibn Rawaha, and the hadith was Sahihain. The Hanabila disagree with the majority. They said, no, actually, breaking the fast is better. Okay? And they use evidence. One of them, the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he said, ليس من البر الصوم في السفر إن الله تحب أن تؤتى رخصه ذهب المفطرون اليوم بالأجور. النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم, in many occasions, he showed an indication that fasting is better. They are the one who take the ajr, because they are the one those who didn't fast are better, because they were have the strength, they were able to serve the rest of the group. In Nabi Sallallahu said, it's not from the birr to fast and traveling, and that means don't think that it is better for you to fast if you're traveling. It's not some of the ahmal al-birr, it's not something that's the deed of extra virtue. So that's what they said. There is a group of people, they said if you fast while you are traveling, your fasting is not even valid. And that's Ahlul Zahir. And then reported Ibn Abbas, Abu Hurairah, Al-Zuhri, Al-Naqa'i, even said something, and they mentioned that the hadith, أولئك العصاة, they are the one who disobeyed me. But this was in fact Mecca, and I don't think this has to do with it's impermissible to take that and to take it as a general rules. It was for a specific reason because the Nabi wanted them to be strong in the fight, and he gave a direct order. So it's a hadith at you cannot generalize ruling from it. And as for the verse, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنكُم مَرِيضًا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. Some of the Mufassirin, especially the early generation, consider this as an order to make another day. But anyway, this opinion almost disappeared from Ummah. What I believe is correct is a position that combines between the both, which is one opinion among the Hanabila, which is it is permissible. And the proof for that, many. Aisha radiallahu anha, she said, when Hamza had been Amr al-Aslam, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I travel and I fast. Can I do that? He said, if you wish, you can fast, and if you wish, don't fast. And Anas radiallahu anhu said, we used to travel with the Prophet sallallahu the one who fasting, لا يعيب على المفطر, والمفطر لا يعيب على الصائم. The one who fasting will not, criticize or look down upon the one who's not fasting, and vice versa. Okay? So I think this is the most just opinion, that it is permissible to break your fast or to fast. I don't see a virtue of doing it or not doing it. And Allah knows.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Walid. So with that, we've passed the hour, the top of the hour, and we are going to conclude, inshallah ta'ala, this first edition of Ramadan Debates with Sheikh Yasir Qadi and with Sheikh Walid. Jazakumullah khair, everybody, for tuning in. And the replay will be available on the YouTube channel that you're currently watching immediately after, inshallah ta'ala, and you can find out more at almaghrib.org and Al-Maghrib's Facebook page, facebook.com/Al-Maghrib World, as well as at Al-Maghrib on Twitter. Jazakumullah khair, and we hope that everyone has a beautiful Ramadan. Feel free to connect with us at Al-Maghrib on social media and with Sheikh Walid Basuni and Dr. Yasir Qadi on their social networks, Sheikh Walid Basuni at Walid K. Basuni and Sheikh Yasir Qadi at Yasir Qadi. Jazakumullah khair. I just want to end with a final word from our two instructors, Sheikh Yasir Qadi and Sheikh Walid. General advice for everyone in Ramadan.
Wallahi, Bismillah, I just wanted to remind myself and all of you that don't burn yourself out the first few days. What happens is we get overzealous and we just hit the ground running and we try to do everything, and within 3-4 days we're sleep deprived, whatnot, we simply crash. A really sad phenomenon is that in the middle 10 days of Ramadan, the masjid is very, very empty compared to the first and compared to the last 10 days. And that's not a good sign. We should only take on as much as we can do. That's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Do not take on more than you can do. So don't go so overboard that you're going to burn yourself out. Start with what's reasonable and then build up, because we need to finish Ramadan with the bang. We need to finish Ramadan at our best. So we finish it at our best by working our way up into the habit of increasing our Quran, increasing our dhikr, increasing our dua, and we don't want to burn ourselves out so that we're simply too tired and frustrated at the end of Ramadan. So a little bit of practical advice there. May Allah Azza wa Jal make this Ramadan our best Ramadan, and may He make each subsequent Ramadan even better than this one.
Amen.
For me, I just wish the best for Abu Isa, who's not here with us today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy on him. And if he's looking at this, he now realizes it isn't too bad. And inshallah, hopefully, he will have the ability and I guess the courage. We were joking, Sheikh Yasir, earlier, why did he is not coming? I know he has reasons, but maybe there's other reason too.
Okay.
But anyway, I would like to say something that I heard from Abu Isa, and I want to share it with you. And I thought it's very beautiful advice from him. He said once that it's so important for the people of Ramadan to focus on the wajibat, the obligations. So many times we focus on the recommended act, and we kind of neglect the wajibat. So people focus a lot about Taraweeh and Qiyam al-Layl and this, but they forget about the perfecting their Siyam, perfecting their Salat al-Dhuhr, al-Asr, al-Maghrib, al-Isha, al-Fajr. And many times we forget about for example, the community, and which is good, but we forget about parents, forget about Salat al-Arham. These obligations of Islam. We care a lot about, what time do you break your fast, or what you start with, dates or not. but we don't care about the wajibat, which is husn al-khuluq and adab. So these things, the obligations of Islam, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said that Allah said ما تقرب إلي عبدي بشيء أحب إليه مما افترضته عليه. The most beloved deeds to Allah are the deeds that He made it obligatory upon us. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us able to fulfill this advice. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Sheikh Yasser. Thank you, Sheikh Ammar. Thank you, Al-Maghrib, for giving us the opportunity. Hopefully we can repeat that soon, inshallah.
With that, we all sign off. Jazakumullah khair, everybody who tuned in, and look to see you online. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.